Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Today, Jennifer and I are joined by a very, very special guest. Her name is Shani Silver. And yes, that's Shani, like Rainy, with an SH. So Shani Silver. And she is the author of A Single Revolution, Don't Look for a Match, Light One, and the host of A Single Serving podcast, which launched in April 2019 in the hopes of giving single women content that, for once, didn't revolve around dating, and to support women all over the world in reframing the way they see and experience singlehood. Following 10 years of fruitless use, Shani permanently deleted her dating apps in January 2019. She has, yes, yay! She has loved her life ever since. And as she says in her book, she's trying to help singles view singlehood as something other than a problem to fix at any cost. Shani Silver, welcome to Madness Cafe.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome. We wanted to start out just kind of asking you a general question about how did you decide to focus your life's work around kind of helping single women reframe?
I think it's a vocation that found me, kind of. I've been a writer since I'm 6 years old, and it's always been what I love, and I've always done it. And I think it was like one of my first writing classes in college where I was really struggling with the class. And it's a huge blow to the ego when you are a writer and your writing professor is like, you're not good at this. That could have been absolutely detrimental to my future. But there was one paper that I wrote about something that made me angry. And the biggest comment that I got was, what is it about vehement rage that makes you such a great writer? And since then, I've been working on shedding fear of discussing things that bother me. And I've been using the internet as a way to discuss things that I don't like in the hopes of making them better. Because if I don't like them, I don't think I'm the only one. I'm not really writing about stuff that only happens to me. It's pretty widely applicable stuff that I've always written about. And it started out as I was going through a really difficult time in dating. It was early days of me writing online professionally. And I was just complaining about guys and about dating. And I was just complaining and calling this stuff out. And I thought calling this stuff out would affect change. I thought, oh, surely if you shine a light on this, guys will be so embarrassed and they would like just, snap right up and behave. And
that's a great thought.
Yeah. The naivety. I mean, the absolute childishness of that. So after a few years, it didn't become enough. I needed to do more. I needed to use my voice. I needed to learn how to use my voice more in a more authoritative tone. I needed to put some authority behind it because I knew I had the writing talent and I was afraid to put authority to it because who am I? Who am I to tell anybody what to do? Who am I to give advice? This is a big internet with tons of people. I am one woman. I am one perspective. I am one life experience. Like, who am I to say anything? But I started hearing from people who were like, I go through this and this sucks and I don't like it either. And thank you for writing about this. And so that was just how it started to build and build. And eventually I pitched a column to Refinery 29 to one of my mentors there. And she said, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And I wrote I wrote every single day for Refinery 29 for almost 2 years. And after that was when I really felt like I could start not just calling stuff out, but telling single women how they could feel better. Because I had done that. I was just too scared to tell them my process and what I had done and what I had changed and fears I had faced and stuff like that. But after that column ended, I was like, okay, the wheels are off. Let's do it. The book came out of that. The book came out of being ready to help in a real way, being really, really grateful that I was good at something that I loved to do. And I had finally found a way to do it in a way that could help other people.
And honestly, I have to say that your book is definitely touching people for sure. I mean, I can say that because reading the book and having, listening to you talk about your life and giving examples in your life in the book, you might as well have been talking about me, because, the whole process of, or the whole experience of long periods of being dateless or being uncoupled, right? So I can definitely relate to that, and just knowing, oh, there's other people who go through this, and this doesn't make me a weirdo. It doesn't make me less than. I can reframe this. Thank you very much for writing this book.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. And it was a big deal to me to write it and to finish it while I was still single. I'm still single now, so I didn't have anything to worry about there, but I wanted to still be a part of this community when it was published, because it was my first book, and given its topic, it meant a lot to me that I was one of us when it came out, because there are a lot of books written from an advice perspective that are written by married people. I have a hard time with, hey, I got married, so you can get married too. It's so distant. It is so distant from reality. It is so dismissive of the shared experience, the people who are dating, particularly those of us who are dating later in life than we thought we would be. It's so dismissive, and it doesn't tell the truth. Just because you did it once, that doesn't make you an expert. So I had to do it while I was still a part of us. I still am, and I'm still writing and creating, and I cannot wait for my next book, which is definitely happening.
I love the way you worded that answer, because you said, I wanted to write it while I'm still single. And I think a lot of people think that if you're embracing the single life, that that's your life forever, and that you can't also at some point want to be coupled. Like the two things are mutually exclusive somehow. What are your thoughts on that?
Why do people marry those things together? And pardon the pun, like why do they don't go together? Like there's no logic, there's no reality to being happily single and also wanting a relationship. Those things can very, very easily, effortlessly coexist. They're allowed to. But we have these ways of looking at single women in society that are so bucketed and compartmentalized. And for why? Like there's no rule around this. Part of what I want to do with the book, obviously, is change the way society thinks, but I'm doing it us first. I would like single women to be the mirror that changes the conversation, and I can't do it alone. So I'm essentially enlisting all of you, whether you like it or not, to help me change the narrative, because you can be happily single, and that doesn't mean you're swearing off love or swearing off dating even.
Right.
You don't have to draw these fictitious lines in the sand. I understand that some people need them, because in some ways they are crutches. They're emotional crutches. They lend what feels like support in the moment. I get that, and I'm not going to judge anybody for that. I'm just saying no one's making you. No one is making you decide what you want, either a happy singlehood or a relationship. That's not a thing. You don't have to pick one. You can have both, and I have both every day. I look forward to my future relationships, and I am perfectly, thoroughly happy with my life right now. And coming from where I came from, that's just a monumental sentence to come out of my mouth.
Yeah, in your book, you said something, I forget the term you use, maybe you can tell the listeners, but people who are sort of waiting to start their life until they're coupled. What was your term on that?
That's called a prologue life.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's where your life isn't real yet until you have a partner. I used my couch as an example. I used to have really ugly couches, really cheap Amazon couches, because in my head, and by the way, most of this is happening in our heads, and we're really embarrassed about it, but I'm not, so I can say it out loud. It's fine. I'll take the embarrassment for all of us. It's okay. It no longer matters to me. They know everything already. Like, what do I have to hide? So I used to think in my head, I can't get a nice couch because I'm going to be with someone soon. And A, what if he doesn't like the couch? And B, why would I buy a couch before I bought a couch with two incomes? Like I could have a way nicer couch. Like, why would I do? That was the thing. That was the thought in my head. And it went further than that. It went to like, well, I'm not going to buy a KitchenAid. I'm not going to buy a Cuisinart, because that's stuff you register for, right? That's what I was taught. That's the stuff you register for. So I went most of like until my mid 30s without appliances, because I was just like, oh, I don't mind mixing things by hand. I'll register for it one day. Get out of here with that. Buy the KitchenAid. If you're listening right now and you want a KitchenAid, get one. Maybe wait till Memorial Day, the sale, or Black Friday, but get one. get whatever you want. You know what you do when you get married and you already have all that stuff? You can do one of two things. You can register for other stuff, or if you find that you have two of things, have a garage sale and get rid of one set, because that's what one of my best friends did. And I thought it was great. She was like, hey, we made a bunch of money. It's thinking that your life isn't real, that it doesn't count, that you don't get to do the things you want to do because you just aren't real yet. You are not real yet. The real part of your life has not started because you are not married yet. You are not in a partnership yet. Nothing is real yet. That is not true, but it can feel very real when you are a single woman who has never been taught or encouraged to think otherwise.
And isn't it so sad that in this day and age, that so many women achieving amazing things are having that thought? Women who in any other instance would describe themselves as powerful, feminist, accomplished, all of these things, but there are these things they can't do until they get married, like travel, buy a house, any of those things. So one thing that I was curious about, Shani, is the journey for you from the moment where you're like, okay, well, hold on, this doesn't have to be this way, where it started for you and that one spark to where you are now. And are you still going through some of that?
It's important to note that there wasn't just one light bulb moment. It was a series of light bulb moments that happened over years. And that's important to say because anyone who's trying to affect change in their own life needs to give themselves grace and know that things don't have to change overnight. It's okay if they happen slowly. Whatever pace they happen on, that's your pace, and that's allowed. That's a good pace. Oh my gosh, there's so many stories I could tell, little tiny moments that added up over time and became my need to acknowledge that my life wasn't working. There were so many. I mean, one of my favorite ones, I don't talk about this too much. I did mention it in the book, though. It was probably one of my darkest moments in my singlehood ever. And there were extremely, extremely dark moments in my singlehood. It was one of those evenings, and I was in the shower washing my hair. I remember thinking, like, you know, sometimes how you have thoughts and it's like you didn't put them there. It's just stuff that pops into your brain. I remember very, very distinctly having the thought, this is for a reason. All of this that's happening to me, all of this awfulness that I am going through over and over and over and over for 10 years, all of it, there's a reason for it. This would not be for nothing. There is a reason for this. And I am living the reason now. I am absolutely living the reason. It wasn't for nothing. It was for education. It was so that I could teach other people. It was so I could prove to myself and to other people that you can be 100% happy, valid, whole, that you are everything that a married person is right now. That's why all of that happened. Because if I didn't get to the darkest places, I wouldn't have had the motivation that I needed to wake up from them. All of this started because I was exhausted. I was exhausted and angry, and I was tired of being angry. I was sick of being single. I needed a new way to exist. And so I just stopped. I think that's one of the hardest things to communicate to people, certainly on social media, where you're like communicating in, 140 characters at a time. It's hard for me to explain to people, you can just stop all of this. You can stop all of the pain. You can stop all of the suffering. You can stop what you're putting yourself through. You can just stop. You can just stop and walk away, like letting go of a balloon. You really can. And no one wants to, but then how will I meet someone? How will I meet someone? If I just stop, how will I meet someone? I'm not doing enough to meet someone. How will I meet someone? That energy, that panic. Yeah. I think that's the core of what's keeping us so miserable and so tethered to a really cruel dating culture, because we think that our singleness is wrong. We think we have to fix it. And we think if we stop trying, stop putting in all that effort, that we will be alone forever. Despite, I don't know when forever starts. Like, what age is forever? When does it count? I'm going to be 40 in June. Is that forever yet? Can we just say forever? She never got married. She's going to be single forever. Can 40 be forever? Because I'm done. I'm done with this notion.
Yeah. Raquel and I, we both, when we do interviews, we like to read the book and talk about it. And so we were discussing your book yesterday and talking about where we've been. We're both dating in our 50s. Yeah. Raquel has not been married. I have. And we were talking about the differences of our perspective on it. And some of what you're saying, I totally get. But for me, the dating has been a little bit different. Like when I got divorced, it was almost like this mad dash to prove something. It was like, well, I can still be desirable. I can still be wanted, that kind of thing. But I came up with the same kind of resistance to online dating. Raquel asked me a while back ago, she said, what's your favorite online dating app and what's your least favorite? And I was like, they all suck. They all suck.
They do.
Yeah.
And they're all the same.
Yeah.
They're all the same. At the
They're
end of
all
the
awful.
day, they're all the same. They all have the same people on them, and they all have zero consequences for bad behavior. A block button
Yes.
isn't enough. A block button isn't enough.
That is so true.
No, and the bad behavior is shocking.
Mhm.
It's
Oh,
absolutely shocking.
yeah.
I was telling Raquel about pictures I've received,
Mhm.
unsolicited stuff, things people have said. Asked me about my personal grooming habits before I even know your name.
Listen, part of it's shocking, but because we know that it's shocking, we know what it's like. This is not a secret anymore. This is out in the open. What is more shocking to me is that women still participate. Honestly, that is what shocks me more. You know what it is. You're there, you see it, and yet you stick around there. I don't know what else to do. Of course, I did it for 10 years. I am one of us. Like I did it for 10 years. But
I think it's that whole thing of, oh, but it worked for so and so, it could still work for me. Or, oh, look, this person met their spouse on whatever, it could work for me. Yeah.
One more swipe. This is gonna be the one.
Yeah. Keep going, keep going. Or what did you call it? You called it the digital face buffet. Shani, I really like that.
it's not far from the truth. It is
Right.
not far from the truth. And we have a terrible habit of clinging to these one-off success stories and making them the future fact for everyone. It's like,
Yes.
how long are you going to dangle that carrot? How long are you going to dangle that carrot for yourself? I don't care about who met on a dating app. I do not care. I care about the hundreds of thousands of us who do not. That's who I care about. And I don't see anybody doing anything to help that community. It's just go back in the lion's mouth. He must be in there somewhere. He's not in there. I'm telling you right now, he's not in there. Get out. He's not in there. He's just not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's just not. And it's a very heterosexual conversation, but it's just, I have such a space in my heart for what is happening to single straight women who are looking for single straight men. I know what's happening. I lived it for 10 years.
Yeah.
You can get out. You can get out and you can be so free and so happy. And I want to scream it from the rooftops, which is why I do.
Well, I disagree. I do see someone helping and it's you. And
thank you.
I liked your book a lot. I love your podcast.
I'm so
I
glad.
really do. I was turned on to it from the reading of the book, and I've been listening madly for the last several days. You recently had on a guest who was talking about the ways we give and receive love. And it was just like eye-opening to me how programmed into us. And that even happens on the online dating apps. And it certainly happens on these weird dates we go on from the online dating app. What has happened to love and dating in modern world? Or was it always like this?
No, it's changed. We've built a culture that changed it. We built a culture that made it okay to settle for scraps.
Ugh.
That's what we've done. And until you leave it, you're just going to get scraps. Until you leave it and demand more of life, of dating culture, of the people that you're communicating with. As long as you are willing to settle and you're proving to yourself that you're willing to settle because you keep settling for the bare minimum, the bare minimum is all you're going to get.
How do you define settle?
Oh, anything that is less than what you want. If you want a relationship, why are you settling for casual sex? If you want a relationship, why are you settling for somebody who texts you once every 6 months? If you want a relationship, why are you letting men look at all of your Instagram stories but never reach out to ask you out for a date? Figure out what you want, maybe understand why you want it. Are you driven by shame to have a relationship, or are you driven by, a genuine need for companionship and a need to build a life together, family together? That's great. Figure out what you want. Once you do, don't settle for less than that. Don't date someone's fictitious future that you made up for yourself in your head. If they're treating you like garbage, listen to that. Take the information away from that. If they're not giving you what you want, you are settling. If you are changing who you are settling. If you are changing what you want to fit availability or perceived availability, that's
Huge.
settling.
Huge.
Yes.
My dad always said to me when I was young, be careful not to settle because you often get less than you settle for.
Ooh, that's good.
And that's the truth, because they're showing us their good behavior, right? This is their good behavior because they're trying to. So what you're really going to get is a far line below that.
Yeah.
Just a lie. Settling is a lie. When you settle, you lie to yourself and you say that, oh no, this is okay. I can make it work with this. This is enough for me. No, it's not. And eventually you'll figure out that it's not. And you'll realize that you're not just settling when you say yes to settling. You're settling every day for the rest of that relationship.
Maybe the rest of your life.
Potentially, which is the heartbreaker, which is why I do what I do, because women don't have to settle just so they can say they're with someone. They can accomplish more. They can live a happier, better, more fulfilled life without settling than they can with. And I don't know how many times we have to see friends and loved ones, celebrities even. I don't know how many times you have to see it over and over and over again. She could have done what she could have done with her life if she hadn't tethered herself to this. She didn't have to. I don't know why she did. I haven't seen the Janet Jackson documentary because I don't currently have access to a platform that is streaming it. But what I'm hearing come out of that, like if it can happen to Janet Jackson, literally the first goddess of my childhood. If we were dancing in the garage, we were dancing to Janet Jackson, maybe a little Paula Abdul on the side, but it was mostly Janet Jackson, the first goddess of my childhood. To hear her struggling through love and relationships, it's widely applicable. It can happen to anybody, and it's never anyone's fault. But I want us to know that we have more options. There are options. I'm not saying they're easy options, particularly if you're in an existing relationship, but they exist. Options exist, and singlehood, a happy singlehood, is one of them, and it does not preclude you from falling in love in the future.
Now, you were talking before about the panic and dating apps and how all of this plays into, and it's just this vicious cycle, right? Do you think COVID has had some effect on that as well? I mean, with people being, maybe not as much now, but with people being in lockdowns and not being able to meet people just out and about as much as before.
I found it really embarrassing. I found it really embarrassing that in a time when people were dying and we didn't know why, and we didn't know how to stop it, and we were shut in our homes, people were losing jobs, children couldn't go to school. I was humiliated that during that time, there was so much concern for what are we going to do about the singles? How are they going to date? How are they going to find someone? How are they going to date? We're not going to date right now, because dating is not what's important right now. Survival is. Taking care of our communities is important. Dating was the furthest thing from my mind, and I was embarrassed anytime I saw it at the forefront. I was absolutely embarrassed. And any lack or panic or scarcity that people felt during the pandemic about not being able to date, it's just a core component of single shame, of single lack. It was there before. You can think that COVID exacerbated it, maybe because it put more distance, like it in a typical single woman's mind. It was another year, like another year I'm going to have to wait before I can get married, another year I have to wait before I can have a baby. And that clock starts to just like play out in your mind, like, okay, so I'll be this age when I meet him, and then I'll be this age when we get married a year later, and I'll be this age when we start to try to get pregnant, and maybe I'll get pregnant the first time. And just that wheel, it just keeps spinning. But it all comes back to how do you view what's most important in your life? What is most important to you? And I was ashamed in that moment that what was most focused on for single people wasn't contribute to your community and stay the hell home.
Damn, Shani, that was so well said. So well said. People upset that they can't go to a freaking restaurant. Give me a break.
We were the luckiest. There are singles who have children, and I don't think that was a lucky situation at all. But for us that were single and living alone, the privilege, that so much privilege. I don't have anyone to take care of. I work from home. That's another privilege that I have. It was just, it broke my heart. It broke my heart to see how many PR emails I got from dating apps, because they don't research me and they don't find out I hate them. So they send me PR emails anyway. How many PR emails I got from these dating apps that were like, we built this new feature so singles can still date during the pandemic. And I got to tell you, if any of the dating apps had said, during these unprecedented times, we're taking our engineers off the dating functionality and we're going to put them to work doing something that contributes to the pandemic effort, I would have gone back on one of those apps. If any one of them had taken some sort of initiative to help instead of make it worse, I would have given them another shot. But none of them did. And so I'm still app free and quite happy about it.
Describe reframing for us and how that's a technique to help single people get out of that loop of counting down how many years till they get married, how many years till they have kids, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. Reframing is a fancy word for look at it from a different point of view. Reframing is really easy. I love to give this example because I think it's an incredible one. The same thing is happening in both scenarios, but your perspective changes. Here's what I mean. I think many singles can identify with this moment. I hate sleeping alone. There are many of thoughts like this that happen during singlehood, but I hate sleeping alone is a pretty identifiable one. So I hate sleeping alone is the thought, and you feel lonely and you want to have somebody in bed with you and you want like the physical comfort and touch and all of that. I hate sleeping alone. The reframed thought is, I get the whole bed. That's it. That's it. The same thing is happening in both scenarios. You're sleeping alone both times. One time you have a frame of mind where you lack, and the other frame of mind is one of abundance. That's the difference. You start to see things from a different perspective. Both things are happening simultaneously. It is your choice how you see them. It is your choice. Your house is either empty and that's bad, and it's too quiet in here and there's no one here and I don't like living alone, or your house is full of you and the decoration you like and the music you like and the temperature that you like to set this thermostat at, and you don't have to compromise with anyone. You don't have to argue with anyone. There is a bliss. Please don't ignore the freedoms afforded to you by single life. The worst possible day to figure out how great singlehood is the day you get married. Please figure it out first. Please, please love it first. You have all of this abundant freedom in front of you. Live it and enjoy it and see its value. And let this be the season of your life that you're in right now. And later in partnership will be a future season, and that's okay too. That's great too. But they both have equal value. One is not better than the other. That's the thing that we need to get our heads around. Singlehood and partnership are entirely equal in value. One is not better than the other, but we've built a culture and a society that thinks that the only correct way to be, if you're an adult, is in partnership or in marriage. And it causes a lot of shame for those of us who don't find someone on the timeline that society approves of. And I can't have that. Not on my watch. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You had a word for that. I think I heard it on your podcast this morning, actually. You used the word grooming for that. And that sent a chill down my spine, because we all know how grooming is used in the world, but this particular use of the word grooming is still just as chilling. We have been groomed to fulfill these roles in society. I thought that was so powerful.
It bothers me. I think it's extremely patriarchal in nature. It's very alarmingly so sometimes cross-cultural. There are women from all over the world, every culture you can imagine, that connect in my Facebook group or connect by emailing me so I see their story. And the ability to identify with feelings of failure, feelings of shame, their family thinking they failed, their family looking down on them, all because they haven't found a romantic sexual partner to bind themselves to.
Yeah.
It's unfathomable to me, and it's heartbreaking. And I mean, I don't know. Everybody has their thing that they want to help and want to do. And this is the thing that I've chosen because I can do it well. And I hope that more and more people start to listen. It has been quite a steep uphill battle, but I think it's one that's worth it, because I think women's lives are worth it. The quality of a woman's life is worth it. And right now we don't care much about the quality of a woman's life in countless areas. And because there are some areas that I can't affect change, that I feel helpless.
The work that you're doing and in the way that you're affecting change becomes an example to everybody else of you don't have to live your life a certain way. There are other options out there for you. There are other ways to be happy, and being single is not less than. One thing that popped into my head when I was reading your book, kind of like what you were talking about, of the thought that just pops in your head and you're like, this came from somewhere else, for me was being single is the least interesting thing about me.
Exactly.
There's so much more going on in my life. There's so much more going on in my head. There's so much more that I want to do, that whether I'm dating or whether I'm married or single or coupled or whatever, that is the least interesting thing in my life.
Yeah. This stuff doesn't, I mean, if this wasn't how I was earning a living, I would never think about the fact that I'm single anymore. I wouldn't care. It's just, it's a non-issue. It's really a non-issue. And sometimes you'll get reminders every now and then. There are countless negative reminders that the world loves to give you, but I like the positive ones. I like, going out and someone's cute and they're talking to you. Like, that's a reminder of my singlehood sometimes. And that's okay. None of that has developed into anything more. Obviously, I'm still single, but like, there's no reason to make this the center of you. And so many single women make it the center of them because they've been shamed to do it. They've been trained to do this. I mean, can you name for me a party that's bigger than a wedding? Other than the Oscars, is there any party that is as big and as celebratory as just blatantly like, we're going to spend any amount of money and we're going to just celebrate
amounts of money.
Obscene. And it's a coin toss. It's literally a 50-50 shot. But why do we keep doing it? Like, why do we keep lying to ourselves? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have weddings, but if you want me to celebrate you with reckless abandon, invite me to your 10th anniversary. Like, just, can we make big parties that you haven't done anything yet? I'm sorry. You're just continuing to sleep with the same person that you've already been living with in an apartment in Brooklyn for how long? Like, what are we celebrating? What are we celebrating? We don't ask these questions. We just keep going along with it.
Well, that makes me think about something that you brought up in the book about the jealousy aspect, the mentality of lack of, oh, another person got engaged here. When is it going to be my turn? What's happening there? And you're like, don't look at it that way. Be happy for them. Fake it till you make it, but don't look at it that way. There's more than enough to go around. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Well, one person getting engaged or married doesn't mean that there's less opportunity out there for you. It hasn't taken anything away from you. Someone else's happiness doesn't say anything about you at all. It's your choice whether or not you allow someone else's happiness to say something about you. Their happiness is theirs. It has nothing to do with you. We've also been groomed to compare ourselves to each other. Since childhood, since the magazines I read when I was a kid, since every television show you've ever watched, like, it's a culture of comparison. And it's hurtful and it's harmful and it's dangerous at times. Jealousy is your choice. We don't discuss these feelings and these thoughts enough from a place of choice. You're choosing this. You are absolutely choosing this. I was there for a decade. I know what it feels like. I know that it doesn't feel like your choice, but give it a minute. Think about it. It is. You can choose another way to feel. You can choose to say, I'm so happy for them. And you can choose to let that thought take root and see how it feels when that thought builds. When you do it over and over again, when you're walking down the street and you see a couple holding hands, instead of scowling at them, just think in your head, I'm so happy for them. See how it feels to replace a negative thought with a positive one over and over again. I don't care how cheesy this sounds. Give it a shot. What do you have to lose? You might start to feel better.
Can I read a little piece from the book?
Sure. Oh my gosh, I wrote this a year ago. It's so wild to hear it out loud now.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite things because I think anyone who's ever gone on online dating has felt this way. Back to the online dating, my favorite topic. You say, have you ever found yourself freshly ghosted or recently appalled by someone's behavior on a dating app and taken straight to social media to vent about it? That vent might make you feel better or more valid in the moment, because for some reason we feel better about shitty things happening to us when other people know they happened. But the feeling doesn't last. Venting creates a cycle of venting because we're just bitching about the things that happened. We're never looking deeper to ask ourselves why we would feel bad about it or what changes we can implement to feel better if it happens again in the future. We're also not asking what boundaries can we set up to help prevent it from happening again. I thought what you were just talking about, same thing. It's like the onus about our life is on us, about how we respond to these things. Ghosting, who hasn't been ghosted? But it really doesn't say anything about us. It says something about the ghoster.
Can I tell you the story that inspired that paragraph?
Sure.
It's not my story. It's from a member of my audience, and I'll anonymize them so that, I mean, this person had been on a first date from online dating, and that first date had lasted for 5 hours. It was a really long date. Everybody's had one of these. It's a really long date, and she didn't want it to end. And isn't it great to like be on an amazing date? And then she never heard from him again. And she was so confused, and I mean, rightfully so. Who does that? Who spends 5 hours with somebody to have that be the only interaction you're ever going to have with them? That's one of the realities of the culture that we're in. Dating culture has no boundaries, so you have to set them. So instead of being like going to social media to bitch and moan about, can you believe he did this? Yes, I can. I can believe pretty much any dating horror story because they are no longer the exception. They are the rule. What I cannot believe is that we don't put more boundaries in place more often. So instead of thinking of this as a bad thing and venting about it, think about it as an education and an opportunity to learn. This date just taught you that from now on, your dates are going to be 2 hours max. And if somebody wants to see you again, they can put forth that effort. You're going to say, you know what, I've had a great time and I hope we see each other again, but I've got to head out now. So you have my number and I look forward to hearing from you. How hard is that? How hard is that to say that and to stand in your worth, set a boundary and walk away and stop treating every person who's in front of you like they're the last one that's ever coming along? They're not, I promise.
Damn, another well said. I think it, from my own experience, I can only speak from my own. I think the first few times you do that, you stand strong in your boundary, it is hard. It is like
of course,
like a shaking hard. I've been there. And then the more you do it, the more you're like, damn, this actually feels pretty good. I mean,
it's scary the first time. It's only scary the first time. You get better and better over time. You're allowed to practice, and thinking that you're never going to meet somebody else and whoever's in front of you, you have to grab on with 2 hands and just be like, so you can't let this one go. I've got one on the hook. That's a lack mentality. That is a lack mentality. And it keeps women from walking away. It keeps women from saying no to what is not enough for them. It keeps women settling.
Do we think men do the same thing?
Oh God, no. Are you kidding me?
They don't, huh?
I'll do you one better. Do you think there's 3 men recording a podcast just like this somewhere? I don't think so.
I doubt it. I really doubt it.
We talk about it more and we care more and we analyze more and we do everything more because we have been taught to. We have been taught that our singleness is a problem, and they've been taught their singlehood is a gift and a precious, like, you know, like they're the catch and we're the burden.
That's bullshit.
Get out of here. I'm not hearing it anymore. I'm not hearing it. I'm sorry. That's when I know that I'm in a good relationship, when you can't tell who the catch is. That's the relationship that I want. I want something even and balanced. I want equality. I want equal amounts of investment, emotional and like effort.
Oh, fuck.
That's how I know.
You just taught me something. You just taught me something. I have been saying for years, I'm the catch. I'm the catch. And now I realized you were right. It needs to be an equal catch. Fuck, you just taught me something huge. Thank you.
Because if he's not a catch too, aren't you going to get
what
bored?
the fuck am I doing?
You're going to get bored. You're going to get bored. You're going to be upset with yourself.
Okay, pattern.
That's also, I mean, patterning is a whole other bag of cats, truly. Right. But the thing about patterning is it's just information. It's just giving you information. You are allowed to make changes. And the first step before you can make a change is identifying a pattern. So it's, I mean, you change these things to stop thinking of them as negatives, and you learn to start seeing them as gifts, as opportunities for education, as opportunities for change. I mean, you can apply that to literally any area of life, but right now we're talking about this.
I've done this. Maybe y'all have done this before too. Is you go into a date or a potential relationship, you're like, oh, I hope he likes me. I hope he likes me. I hope he likes me. And you never think, am I going to like him? Do I like this guy? Is he good enough for me? We got to flip it.
Absolutely. We have to flip it and we have to balance it.
Yeah.
And we can't be the only ones doing that, by the way. I mean, it's going to take a huge amount of effort from single men as well. And I don't know if you've been around them lately.
Are they going to do that?
I don't know. And I hate generalizing, but after a decade of research, I don't feel like I'm generalizing.
I've got a decade of research also.
But here's the thing. It sounds weird to say, but I don't think our future partners are necessarily going to be found by dating our way to them. I don't think that dating works. I don't think modern dating is an institution that works. I think people who meet in modern dating culture, they're not success stories. I think they're algorithmic accidents. How many millions of people are on dating apps? If you slam all that amount of people together in the same space, some of them will fall in love by accident. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. I'm tired of treating them like success stories. They are algorithmic accidents. There's no way that a dating app wanted them to meet, because when they met, that dating app stopped making their money. Dating apps are incentivized to keep you single and swiping as long as possible, and they are very good at their job. So just remember that. The next time you are swiping your adulthood away, remember that that's by design. They want you there. They want you spending money for as long as possible, as many years as possible. So that's another choice that you're making.
Maybe I better start shopping for shoes or coats or something instead of men.
I just don't think it works anymore. I think we're just going to meet by living our lives.
It doesn't work.
Just live
It
our
clearly
lives.
doesn't work. I think we all know that.
Yeah, we do. But so many of us are so reluctant to get rid of it because how I meet someone. I just live. Just live. I hate that I have to say it this often.
My 50-year-old friends and we've got a good couple 20 years on you and your group of friends. We talk about how dating has changed since when we were younger. But here's the thing, as a 50-year-old, we haven't figured out, if we don't do dating apps, and most of us don't do them at all anymore, we're done with that. But how do you actually meet people?
Why do you feel like you have to meet people? Why is that a focus? Why is that something you're putting overt effort into? It's the core of that question. It isn't where do we meet people? If we're not on dating apps, where do we meet people? It's asking yourself why you want to. Asking yourself why that's a problem. Because I know, I mean, it's we're allowed to live. We are allowed to live our lives. I never give dating advice ever because I think it's all bullshit. It's also consequenceless, because if I'm right, I'm a hero. And if I'm wrong, there's no consequence for me. You just probably weren't taking my advice, right? And that's probably why you're still single. That kind of dynamic. The question, well, then how do I meet someone? I won't answer that. I will instead ask you why you want to and make you think about that, because I think it's a crazy question. You meet people by being alive. People meet everywhere in the wildest ways and in the most mundane ways. And it doesn't matter how they met. It's not about how or where or when or whatever. It's just you were alive and you connected with the relationships that were meant for you. And I believe that with my whole heart, what is meant for you will not miss you. Do we really think that if we want to be in a relationship, that we will go from now to death without finding one? I think that's an insane notion. We're not asking to win the lottery. We are asking for something that most people on earth do at one or more times during the course of their lives. We're not asking for something insane or astronomical. We're asking for something incredibly mundane and frequent. I just have a hard time believing that we'll never meet somebody. It doesn't make any sense to me. It isn't logical to me to think I am somebody who would like to be in love again at some point in my life. I think it's ridiculous to think that I won't be. But we get married to these very short timelines where if you have not fallen in love by the time at which whatever culture you come from or whatever part of the country you live in, whatever they think is too old, if you haven't done it by then, you're a failure. And I refuse to believe it, because we have the capacity to fall in love until we die.
Yeah, I have the older version of that. So I don't count. I've been married. I have kids. I have the version of, if I don't meet them now, we're only going to spend 10 years together or 20 years together. We're running out of time. I'm going to die. Now that I say it out loud, it's so ridiculous.
I mean, a little bit, but why can't those 10 years be amazing?
Well, they are. But for whatever reason, I've got that weird clock in my head that you just made me aware of.
But you know why it's there. It's society brainwashing us this way. We've been groomed for it.
Yeah. You know? Do you have that same clock, Raquel?
Huh? Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, I do. And I fight really hard not to listen to it.
Good.
It's easier. No, it's easier for me not to listen to it when other things are going on in my life, when I have a really full life and friends and I'm active and all the things, right? All those things. But if there is, and Shani, you talk about this in the book, if there's an imbalance somewhere, then it's almost like here's a level floor. And if part of the floor is out of balance, then all that shit can just seep right in there. And it's all the, all the doubt and the negativity and, oh God, I'm going to be, alone forever. Oh my God, I'm too big. And oh Lord, I'm too loud. I'm never going to meet anybody. Oh my, die alone. All that like starts going through my head. And then I'm like, and then, I've like taken to my bed and I'm like, I'm gonna be alone forever. If I don't pull myself out of it, I tell y'all, it is not pretty. It's a full-on ugly cry. And I'm texting people, and, like, nobody loves me.
You're texting all the people that love you, telling them that nobody loves you.
Isn't that ironic? Isn't
that's
ironic?
Absurd, but yes, that's what happens.
Do you know how you can tell when you've really reframed singlehood for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
When you don't freak out about being single when you get bored. If you are bored on the couch on a Sunday afternoon, you have no plans, maybe you haven't had plans all weekend, and you're alone on the couch on a Sunday afternoon with nothing to do and you're super bored and also not motivated, and you're just like, ugh, when your singlehood doesn't bother you, then congratulations, you have graduated from the Shani Silver College of Singlehood.
Okay, I've got some work to do.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yes, because that's when it comes up, right? In the quiet moments. The quiet moments are when you start to panic about being single.
Or it's late at night and I'm watching some stupid movie and somebody just found love and I've had glasses of wine and and I'm like, that's when that happens.
But it's allowed. Human emotions are allowed. Valid feelings are allowed. It's okay to get sad when you watch a movie and two people fall in love. That's completely allowed. What it's not allowed to do is like be the center of you and drive all your decisions and control you and make you feel like you're not enough in the world or lower your self-esteem, your self-worth. That's what it's not allowed to do. We're all allowed to ugly cry.
Shani, do you ever have moments like that still where you're just like, oh hell, here we go?
I feel like, yes, I'm sure there are.
You're like, I don't remember the last time it happened, but maybe.
Okay. Great. The toughest moment that remains, and this, as hard as I've tried, it's still going to be tough. This year was probably the easiest, but it wasn't effortless. Midnight, New Year's Eve.
Oh, that's really hard. The worst. That's the worst.
That is that's my Everest. That is my Everest. That was tough. And I was even with really respectful friends. I was with two couples and me. There were 5 of us celebrating on New Year's Eve, 2 couples and me. We were on my front porch and you can see the New Orleans New Year's Eve fireworks from my front porch, which I didn't know. My girlfriend walked outside and she's like, hey, you can see the fireworks out here. We all just ran outside and we were watching the fireworks. And that was when we did our countdown and everyone was doing like their New Year's kisses or whatever. But it's just 2 of them. It's just like 2 quick kisses. And they were both so respectful of me being there too. And even still, it was still hard. It was still hard. It was the easiest it's ever been, but it was still tough. That's a tough one for me. Going to places that are super social where I don't have a person. I mean, I do it. I still I'm not afraid to go places like going to dinner alone, going to a movie alone, traveling alone. I love all that stuff. Walking into a big party alone. That's like a master's degree in this shit. It's very hard. I did it on Friday night and then layer on top of that COVID fears and you're just like a walking ball of anxiety under a very festive and sparkly mask. That was tough. I walked into a big party on Friday night by myself. I knew one person that was there and I kind of knew his wife, but I did it. I proved to myself I could do it. I went for 2 hours. I was like, when I feel like leaving, I'm going to leave and I'm not going to feel guilty about wanting to go home. It was so much easier than I thought it was going to be, but it still wasn't completely not uncomfortable. There were super uncomfortable moments, but it wasn't like people were looking at me like, oh, she's alone. How weird. They didn't notice. I noticed. It was my choice to feel weird.
Very good point. It was your choice to feel weird. And by the same token, it's always your choice to not feel weird.
So can I turn the line of questioning to ask you a little bit about being a feminine business owner that kind of created your own business? And what I've been interested in on your posts is your mad success with TikTok.
That's 2 weeks old, first of all.
Oh, it is? It's only 2 weeks old?
2 weeks.
Oh my.
2 semanas. Yes, 2 weeks. And by the way, it does pay. It does not pay. You can join the TikTok Creator Fund, but I'm making like, I think $3 a day is the high end and 43 cents is my average. That's not, I started doing TikTok because one of the most frequent comments when I see the book reviewed on Amazon is, I wish I'd had this 10 years ago. I wish I'd had this in my 20s. So I went where the younger people are in hopes of maybe catching them earlier. And also it's a complete, first of all, it's not just young people, it's everybody. It's just a completely new audience of endless humans that I can teach about singlehood and the way I see it. It's like a fresh barrel that you've opened up and just dove into. It's really fun and I like it, but maybe I could call it part of my career. I just, if I'm being 100% honest, I was like, I think I can sell more books if I make TikTok content, and I can. So that's what's happening there.
No, so that's really cool. Your work is great in that it's helping women in particular, but also the fact that you're a woman entrepreneur is also super cool. And you had the courage to step out and create your own business. Pretty amazing. What did it feel like when you decided to take that leap and say, hey, I'm gonna do this on my own. I'm gonna create my own content. I'm gonna be my own boss. How did that feel?
Terrifying. There was no leap. I got fired. I lost a job. I lost a job that hired me when they didn't need me. And they really shouldn't have hired me. That's how that story goes. 2018 was a really, really, really difficult year for me professionally. It was just one nightmare job scenario after another. I was being pushed toward my current career. I just didn't know it at the time. And that final push was losing a job when I didn't have another job as a safety net. I had, however, been freelancing for on the side and writing on the side for a couple of years. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm never going to get another opportunity like this to put my whole back into freelance work. And it was absolutely terrifying at the time. I had no savings. I had no money. I was terrified, just abject terror. It was a really difficult climb and it was very scary. And I never like to lie about that because you can't quit your job on a Friday and expect to be a successful independent entrepreneur on a Monday. You can't. All of 2018 and 2019, I was saving my money like a crazy person, like hoarding my own money to put it in a savings account so that I had something to fall back on, some sense of security, because I'm on my own. It's just me. And even still, I speak from a place of immense privilege on top of that, but it was still scary. Like, it's just the layers of this. I don't want to make it sound easy and I don't want to make it sound unprivileged either, but it took a lot of time. It was not overnight. It was piece by piece by piece. I would make some money, save a huge chunk of it, make some money, save a huge chunk of it. And just slowly but surely, I started letting go of the work I didn't want and building on work that I did want, until I was able to get rid of all of the work that I didn't want to do, like all of the just terrible copywriting jobs and whatever I had to do to pay my rent. And I started creating more content. I started writing more on Medium. I launched the podcast. I started charging for the podcast because I could see what was happening in the podcast space. And I could see how podcasters were essentially feeding their content for free into a platform that was making money. And I could see how, you guys can see this, of course, there are independent podcasters are essentially competing with celebrities, and good luck to you if you would like to go up against them. But any celebrity can launch a podcast in the morning and make money. But it was going to take me upwards of 4 years to grow a podcast at the rate that I was going in order to be able to even bring in ad revenue that would make a dent. I was like, nope, I'm going to start charging for my content because it's worth $5 a month. I am worth $5 a month at least. And I think we should pay for the content we consume. That's kind of how that happened, a piece at a time, over time. It was not easy. It was not overnight. I don't think we talk about that in an honest way either. It was really hard and really scary.
Now, since we're talking about the business and taking leaps of faith, I really would like to know about the whole process of what it took for you to decide, you know what, all these publishers are saying no, but I know this is quality work. I'll just self-publish it. This needs to be out there. Can you talk to that a little bit? Because I think that self-publishing might be the next frontier for voices that don't get heard very much, feminist voices, women, people of color, other marginalized communities. I think that or just voices that aren't part of the mainstream or aren't deemed enough or worthy by mainstream publishing. So I would really love to hear you talk more about that part of this journey for you.
I'd love to. It has a lot of parallels to Singlehood, actually, because for a long time I was ashamed to self-publish because I wanted the big prestigious book deal with the New York publishing house and the big advance that comes along with that, right? I wanted them to choose me and bless me with a book deal. And I had a lot of shame. I was like, I can't self-publish because that's not real. That's not as real as getting a book deal, right? And so for 3 years, I tried to publish the book through a publisher, and for 3 years I got rejected. And the last round of trying to sell a book and getting the last rejection, that dead last rejection was funny, because I was like, are you actually telling me I'm not going to be an author? I know I'm an author. I know this is who I am. This is laughable to me. And that's when the self-publishing journey started, because there was just no way in hell that I wasn't going to publish the book. There was no way it was going to happen. I just, again, there is an element of luck to it, because the day that I got that rejection, I posted a photo from the Met Museum. It was one of the first times, if not the first time, I had entered Manhattan since the pandemic. And I was terrified. It was very early in 2021. So nobody was vaccinated yet because I wasn't yet in the age range. So I was double masked. I was one of 10 people in the museum because they were still gating how many people could go in. So I'm in this room of like Renoir alone. And I just, for some reason, I was like, you should check your email. And I did. And I got the last rejection from the last publisher that I was waiting to hear from, the one I wanted the most, of course. And they said no. And I was just like, this is a joke. Like, you're really telling me I'm not going to be an author? Like, who are you? I am an author. Like, go to hell. And I posted a photo from that empty, beautiful room. And a guy that had me on his podcast a year prior was like, hey, we should talk, call me. And we had a phone conversation. He's like, just self-publish your book. I did. And I make, this much money a month, and it's like passive income, and just do it yourself. Here's the name of this company that does this. Check it out. That's where all of that saving like a crazy person came into play, because a couple of years later, I used that money to publish a book because it wasn't cheap. And you're right, self-publishing is the next path forward for voices that are not heard as often as they need to be, but we also need really accessible resources to do that. And anybody can publish a book on Amazon, anyone. So yeah, and it's not known. It's not widely known. Like, anyone can. There are resources for this, but that needs to be more known and more supported. And I mean, I would love to help people self-publish books one day, because I do think that is the future of publishing. It's not unlike what the music industry is used to do to musicians, and it's, why do we need you now? We don't need you now. Like, but I was just really lucky. I was really lucky that I was able to observe the publishing industry without getting scooped up into it, because if I was scooped up into it, nobody talks about this, but that advance that you get when you get a book deal, you have to pay it all back before you make 1 more cent off your book. And some authors never earn out, ever.
No.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. If you get a $50,000 advance on your book, you have to make that much money back in book sales. And by the way, an author's percentage of a book sale is nauseating.
Yeah.
How much? Okay, so I mean, I don't mind talking about this at all. My book is $15.99 on Amazon, and I see roughly $4 from every sale, because you have to pay Amazon for hosting it. You have to pay for the printing, all of this. So it is a racket. There are so many, they might as well just give away blank pages. It's like the author like barely matters. The words that were written on the page, it's insane, and it makes me crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. We have to talk about that. It's ridiculous, and we have to talk about it more, because that needs to change, because the people that created the words you're reading need to be compensated fairly for their work. But the good news is I don't have to pay back in advance, because I self-publish. So what I'm instead paying back is the upfront investment that I made in publishing the book with a company that helps authors do this. I will make that money back, and much more. And I don't share revenue with anybody, except for obviously Amazon and the physical printing of the book. I'm okay with that.
Well, I love your response to all that, of, getting that last rejection. You're like, I am an author. Who you talking to? I am an author. I know.
I love the parallel that you drew between that and the singlehood shit.
Yeah.
It's just you being you and embracing that 100% and fully, and being authentic and
standing in your truth and standing in your power.
What's more important to you, that people are impressed by you because you got a book deal, or that you are earning a living from a book you publish? What's
Yes.
What's more important? And it was more important to me that I became an author and that became a significant portion of my income. And that became part of my career moving forward, because I write books now. This is what I do. I would love to publish a book a year. That's the intention. I don't know if it'll always happen that way, but that is certainly the intention. And again, I'm privileged enough to be able to do that. Book publishing, that's what I do. That was what was important. That was the authenticity. That's what is authentic, is that I am an author and I publish books, not big name publisher approved of me. And I'm cool now. Like, it's an ego thing. And I shed the ego and I shed the shame around that.
Do you already know what your next book is going to be about?
I do indeed. In some ways it'll be, what you guys have read is 101, and the next one will be 102, or like a couple steps ahead, 105. I know what I want to do. I want to be more fearless than I was the first time, if that's imaginable. I was still working with fear though. I was still working with shame. I was still, in my head, I was thinking, it's really important to me that the woman reading my book is not embarrassed to hold it on the subway. Because how many books are written for us with some shameful title, like self-helpy, awful, like you hide the cover when you're reading in public. I didn't want anyone to hide my cover when they were reading in public. The title choice went into that. The cover design went into that. As a result, I think I lost a little bit of knowing what the book was about when you read the title. And so I feel like my next title, my future title, will be a bit more direct, a bit bolder, a bit braver.
If you could change the title right now to be a little bolder, what would it be?
I mean, if I was being a real bad bitch, I would say delete your dating apps.
I love it.
Yeah.
Right on.
And I could have named it that. I mean, it's one of the chapters in the book. I very easily could have done that. The next one's not going to say that either. The next one is going to get like what I'm talking about doing this so that it improves the quality of a woman's life. That's where we're going to go even further and even deeper. This is not a small conversation we're having. There are such highs that we could be talking about, but there are also such lows, and there are scary ones that I've been afraid to touch before, and I don't want to be afraid anymore. I want to talk about the dark parts of this. I want to talk about the potential positives of this, and I want to talk about this is your future. Like, it is your life and your future.
Yeah.
How do you want it? How do you want to spend it? Do you want to spend, I'm asking myself here, do you want to spend another 10 years swiping your adulthood away? Yeah. Or do you want to live?
And it's also your present moment, this moment of your life. How are you choosing to spend it? And those moments, they add up. Trust me, they add up. And then you go, what did I just do? I love your title. I love your cover. If this part had been just a little bit bigger, don't look for a match, light one. That pretty much sums it up in a way.
It does. It does. I mean, she's cute. She's cute. The cover has so much also hidden meaning that I never really talk about publicly, but it's in the shape of a diamond as a joke.
Oh,
like it makes like
a diamond ring.
Yeah, exactly. And it's upside down because it's like one revolution. Like turn it upside down, it's like one revolution. So yeah. And then the matches obviously have double meaning, because our whole lives are centered around matching with people. Are you kidding me?
It's a match.
Like the most misleading word ever put to use.
It's a match, and then they don't even say anything to you. What kind of match is that?
It's so gross. It's so gross. And the fact that I have been free of them for 3 full years is so glorious. It feels so good.
I actually can't wait for our listeners to hear you say this because you realize you are actually giving women permission. Do you realize that?
I hope so.
Because for whatever reason, we seem to need it. You're giving us permission to say, fuck that. I'm not doing that shit anymore.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to. And it doesn't keep you from falling in love. I mean, honestly, if nothing else helps, maybe this will. Has it worked yet?
No.
Has it?
It certainly has not.
How long are you going to chase down this fiction? Like, yeah, it worked for somebody. Was that somebody you? No. Think about the volumes that we're working with. Think about the number of couples who have met versus the hundreds of thousands who haven't.
Oh, it's so depressing.
Oh. It is, until you delete them forever, and then shit gets real happy real quick. I promise.
Shani, is there anything that you want to talk more about, or something that you just need to get it off your chest?
There's a lot of nuance, and everybody's going to experience singlehood differently, and everyone's going to come from a different family and a different culture. And I guess I'm very grateful that singlehood is one thing that unites us, that makes us instant friends, that gives us instant perspective for how the other one might be feeling, and then able to have empathy for her. There's so many things I want to say to single women, and I say them all in the book, so I won't stress about nailing it or anything. It's all in there. If you are waiting for permission to live more fully, if you are waiting for permission to travel, if you are waiting for permission to try to change jobs, if you are waiting for permission to adopt a pet, if you are waiting for permission to live in a home that you love that is within your means, if you are waiting for permission to replace the shitty pots and pans in your house, if you are waiting for permission to do anything, that permission does not have to come from a relationship. And I would argue that it shouldn't. That permission can only come from you, and you already have it. You're already sitting on what you're waiting for. So do what you want to do. Live your life. You're not missing anything. So live.
Beautiful.
Love that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. I love talking about this stuff.
Shani, this has been such a great conversation. The book is great. I mean, I love the book. I highlighted all kinds of stuff in there. I really had to restrain myself for not highlighting whole pages.
I love that though. I love the fact that it's getting marked up. I had to restrain myself too. Do you know I had to clean it for F words? Like I did like a command F in the book document. I was like, how many times am I saying the F word? And I went and cleaned out a significant portion of them. So you can just imagine, because there's a lot that were left in, but like I had to clean it to make sure that it wasn't egregious or anything.
We like people saying fuck, so it's okay.
Okay, good. I'm glad you like it.
So yeah, we can't wait for your next book. So please let us know when the next book is coming out. We'll help promote it. We'll buy it. We'll tell people about it. We'll have you back on. We'll do all the things to help you get your message out there and help other single women realize that they are worthy and valid just because they exist.
You get it. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Shani.
What I love the most, Raquel, blown away. I love that she taught me so much. She taught me stuff. I thought, okay, I'm hip. I'm doing it right. I got it. I'm happy with my singlehood. And then I was like, damn, I'm missing some real important lessons here.
I can't say enough good things. Being single doesn't preclude you from having a full life. And I think that is so important. And so many people need to hear this. I mean, hell, I needed to hear it.
I think I needed to hear it, and I didn't even realize I needed to hear it. And you'll put in the show notes how to order her book and how to find her podcast, because I'm not
podcast and her website and all the things.
Her podcast blew me away this week, and I've been thinking a lot about the Patreon, and I'm going to subscribe to it because I think what she said is so important. You know, we have all of these big name actors, etc. out there. They have an audience immediately. And then we have people who are doing real boots on the ground work like she's doing. And if we can, not everyone can, but if we can, and we're really digging the content, let's support them.
Yeah. And I do actually. There's extra content that you have access to by being a Patreon supporter. I mean, it's amazing. It's great information.
And to me, it's like, she's supporting us. She's creating this. Let's support her. So I'll be subscribing tomorrow. Thanks, Raquel.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, everyone, for listening today. We will be back with more Madness Cafe next week. You can find us on Instagram at Madness Cafe Podcast or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com. Bye.